As Ukraine braces for severe power outages as a result of Russia's extensive bombing campaign against civilian infrastructure, the governor of Kyiv urged residents to turn off electrical appliances between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., including electric heaters, washing machines, boilers, and other devices considered essential to modern life, such as refrigerators and Wi-Fi routers. What does this mean for Ukraine? What is the situation in Ukraine? Find out by watching this video. Russia pledged to retake the initiative in the faltering Ukraine incursion, striking power plants and creating blackouts across the nation, after Kyiv's soldiers made a fast breakthrough that erased Moscow's gains. If you want to learn more, keep watching this video until the end. More than 30 communities, including Kramatorsk and Dnipro, have been targeted by Russian missiles and air attacks in the last day, Ukraine's general staff stated in a routine Facebook post Monday. Kharkiv, one of at least 2 power facilities hit by rockets, had electricity restored, only to lose it again later that day, after being shelled repeatedly, according to Interfax Ukraine, quoting the city's mayor. Russia targeted power plants and other infrastructure on Sunday, triggering widespread outages across Ukraine as Kyiv's forces launched a quick counteroffensive that drove Moscow's soldiers out of areas of land in the northeast. At least 1 person was killed, and a large fire started when a power plant on the western suburbs of Kharkiv was targeted by the airstrike. As acts of terrorism, President Vladimir Zelensky condemned the deliberate and cynical missile strikes against civilian sites. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, looked to be without electricity later on Sunday. There were few people out and about, but the few that were used torches or cell phones to navigate the gloomy streets. In a separate development, as battle raged nearby, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, located in Russia's captured southern territory, entirely shut down. As the conflict entered its 200th day on Sunday, Moscow withdrew its forces from the captured Kharkiv region to avoid being besieged, leaving behind large quantities of weapons and supplies in a frantic retreat. General Valery Zaluzhny, the head of the Ukrainian military, stated that the country's troops have retaken an area of around 1,160 square miles since the beginning of the counteroffensive in early September. He said that Ukrainian forces were within 30 miles from Russia's border. Why has Russia started attacking the power plant system now? Some analysts were worried about the probable large strikes on the energy infrastructure and the likely results even before Russia launched its full-scale war against Ukraine on February 24th. Since the 1930s, electrical systems have been a frequent target of airstrikes, thus the worry was warranted. Before February 24th, however, many people believed that the Kremlin would not want a regime change in Ukraine and would instead want to make the country answerable to Moscow. If Russia was confident of victory in a matter of weeks, there would be no reason to destroy the country's industry. This presumption held some water. Key gasoline stores and the only large refinery were destroyed by missiles in the first 2 months of the conflict, the only portion of the energy infrastructure to suffer significant damage. However, gasoline supplies play a significant role in logistics, making them extremely important in times of conflict. Furthermore, Ukraine's nuclear facilities came under heavy and unexpected bombardment. It is quite likely that the Kremlin chose to strike the power grid when Russian soldiers encountered difficulties advancing in Ukraine and were forced to retire following a successful counteroffensive by the Ukrainian army in Kharkiv and the south. Attacks on the electricity grid are a potential method of applying psychological pressure to citizens, as well as causing immediate economic hardship and logistical challenges. Plus, to safeguard its electrical infrastructure across a wider area, Ukraine had to remove air defense equipment from the front lines. Ukraine's air defenses are now insufficient, giving Russia an upper hand when launching aerial strikes, thanks to the purchase of Iranian Shahed 136 kamikaze drones. These drones function more like single-use missiles and were designed to exploit Ukraine's lack of air defenses. The scale of Russia's attack on the power infrastructure. Russia launched a series of missile strikes on power plants and substations in September, disrupting energy service in Kharkiv Oblast and adjacent areas. President Putin of Russia has tactically claimed involvement for these cyber attacks and pledged to ramp up the severity of the attacks. The Russian military launched the largest missile and drone offensive against Ukraine on October 10th. The energy grid, which includes power plants and power lines across the country, was another primary objective. The next day saw another round of intense attacks on energy infrastructure, and while the intensity tapered off over the next 2 weeks, the attacks continued. Ukraine was hit by missile attacks on October 10th and 11th around the nation, including Kyiv, Dnipro, Ivano-Frankivsk, Kirovograd, Kharkiv, Khmelnytsky, Lviv, Poltava, Sumy, Vinnytsia, Zaporizhzhia, and Zhytomyr. After the strikes on October 10th and 11th, the electricity grid saw the effects almost immediately. There was a severe shortfall in the ability to generate and distribute electricity, making it impossible to meet consumer demand. Therefore, Ukraine has temporarily halted electrical exports to neighboring European states, and rolling blackouts have been implemented in several Ukrainian cities. For long hours, 90% of Lviv was without electricity, yet by day's end on October 11th, the electrical supply that sustained these assaults were fully restored. There was a second round of attacks on the 17th and 18th of October, largely using drones and fewer missiles. While the destruction was not as severe as the previous week, it was nonetheless significant. Zhytomyr is one of the cities in Ukraine that lost electricity. Despite these assaults, Ukrainian control over the electrical grid and its condition have not wavered. However, the Russian military, aided by Russian energy experts, clearly plotted this latest wave of strikes. So what is the status of the power system now? Even before the events that took place in October, Ukraine had already lost a significant amount of its capacity to generate power as a result of the fighting. Prior to the battle, there had a total power generation capacity of 56 gigawatts. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which was the recent taken over by Russian forces and put into a phase of cold shutdown, was responsible for producing 6 gigawatts, while conventional big power plants in the region that was controlled produced another 9 gigawatts. Some of the facilities have been rendered inoperable either because they were located too close to the fighting lines or because they were damaged by airstrike. It is projected that 90% of wind power facilities and 30% of solar power plants have been destroyed or are located in territory that is controlled by the enemy. On the other hand, as a direct result of the battle, the amount of power used has dropped by 30 to 35%. Before the attacks in October, it seemed as though Ukraine would be able to make it through the winter without any major problems, and would even be able to continue exporting energy for a few months if nothing else went wrong. It goes without saying that power plants are significant, but the power grid is also highly significant. Both the export and import of energy in Ukraine are significantly reliant on the infrastructure that connects power plants and customers located throughout the country. These systems are now the target of an attack that is being carried out. The electrical infrastructure in Ukraine was designed with redundancy and backup power in mind, so that even if there is a disruption, the country would be able to continue providing its citizens with energy. With the main attacks that took place on October 10th and 11th, Russia most probably sought to utterly cripple the country's electrical grid. In spite of this, the durability of the power system was demonstrated, as was the professionalism and dedication of the personnel in the energy sector. Regardless of how reliable the grid's constituent components may be, an ongoing large-scale aerial assault is something an electrical infrastructure just cannot withstand. In order to repair the system, additional time and spare components are needed, in addition to those that have been accessible during the most recent aerial strikes. A significant number of linked components must all be in proper working order for a national power grid to operate as efficiently as it was designed to do so. Consistent attacks from the air are causing vital components to be destroyed and are making it more difficult to continue normal, reliable operations. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be up to date for the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in another video.